And there we go. Welcome to the Food Show once again. It is a Sunday afternoon, and that means we are on the air here live at the corner of King and Water Street in beautiful downtown Kitchener. And the Food Show comes to you at this time every single week for about an hour. We talk about food and chefs and dining and farmers and all kinds of stuff that has to do with food in all of its different variations and forms. And we're actually going to have quite an interesting variation and form of food here today, because on the one hand, we've got food in some of its best cooked form, and we're going to have food that's not in a cooked form, and that's kind of where the sort of the dichotomy there lies, a little bit of a paradox, juxtaposition, whatever you want to call it. And it'll be great to cover that kind of a range for talking about food today. And hello, Craig, in our studio, working the operations controls and stuff. How are you today?
I'm well, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. We're looking at March now, which means that we'll soon be into the spring, and we'll be looking forward to some produce and stuff coming out on markets and farms.
Oh, it'll be great to head back to St. Jacobs.
Yeah, to get everything back outside again. I like winter, but when it goes on too long sometimes, and I'm always happy to see when warmer weather comes, because it means great food outdoors, and who doesn't love the outdoors and great food? Did you have any eating experiences that you wanted to share with us this week?
My grandmother, who lives in New Hamburg, asked me about 2 weeks ago. She says, I need you to come and take me out for dinner. And I'm thinking, great, we're going to go out to dinner. We're going to go into New Hamburg. There's some great restaurants in New Hamburg, maybe out to Stratford. No, she has me come all the way back to Waterloo to go to the Gulf Steakhouse. She says, I need to have some prime rib. Oh, man, was it delicious, though.
Oh, very good. Okay,
I actually had these spare ribs. So
okay,
if you haven't been there, it's one of those treasures in town that you just... you forget about it.
I haven't been there in a long time. I'll have to get by again. Well, very good for you, though. Dining with Grandma, that's always a laudable thing to do.
Definitely.
Now, I have a couple of important guests here in the studio. We need to get introducing them. The first guest that is with us is the winner of the United Way Dream Auction, restaurant reviewer. That was one of the Dream Auctions. We'll talk a little bit more about what that was in the a little later on the show, but the guest is the guest reviewer for the day. The winner of the auction is none other than Nico Giorgio. How are you, Nico? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, thank you.
You're from the Kids Link organization, a great organization here in, I guess, the region. It's a regional organization.
Yes.
Yep. Although you're located in the farm country out in St. Jacobs, correct?
In St. Agatha.
St. Agatha, right.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the show. Glad
Thank
you
you.
could have some time with us here, and you're going to tell us a little bit about our experiences actually, at Uptown 21, where that was your selection for the Dream Auction review, and there you go.
This was wonderful.
We had a fun time, didn't we? Yeah, we'll give people all the details of that a little bit later in the show. Now, that takes care of the cooked part of the show, and wow, what a cook they do. They do a great job cooking there at Uptown 21. And now it's just slightly off the sort of the cooked path, shall we say, is the more raw path, and we have Sasha Campbell with it. She's from an organization called Blissful Health, and she's a raw food coach, raw food expert. Welcome to the show, Sasha.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it was funny because this whole thing, I'm sure you're both familiar with it, this whole Twitter thing seems to connect people in really, really unique and important ways. But sometimes you don't get to actually see the people themselves. So the first time I was meeting Nico was at their dinner. And we've gone back and forth a number of times via at Sash Campbell and all that kind of stuff. And so it's nice to meet you face to face. And we'll learn a little bit about raw food as we get through the show as well. Something I think that probably is shall we say, it's been under the radar, but I think it's sort of starting to creep more and more into the mainstream. Fair to say?
Yes, it's definitely becoming so much more popular, especially actually in Kitchener-Waterloo region.
You're finding that?
Yes, there's a lot of people that are interested in raw food or raw curious.
Yeah, raw curious. I like that, raw curious. I would say I'm raw curious. That's what I would say. Did you know today, for instance, is nothing curious about this and nothing raw about it either, but it's National Pound Cake Day. Now, I'm not too sure what a pound cake is. I mean, I know what it is, but why do they call it a pound cake? Is it that they take a pound of flour, a pound of eggs,
Yes,
a pound
exactly.
of butter, a pound of sugar, and
that's how they make a pound
and they
cake.
get a dense, very fine textured cake. But is it a pound? I mean, it's a heavy, dense cake too, isn't it? Is it?
It's a heavy, dense cake. Yeah,
so
that's
it probably weighs a pound.
very
or two,
versatile.
something.
In that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you cook pound cakes, Nico?
I do.
You do. You cook a
Yeah.
pound cake, really?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What occasions would you cook a pound cake? Just because you like the flavor?
Just because I was making a quick dessert.
Okay.
Pound cake's always good. You can dress it up any way you want.
Exactly. I find it
Flavor
very versatile that way too. If you want to drizzle a little bit of preserves or strawberries or something.
Absolutely.
Not exactly raw, Sasha?
Not exactly raw, no.
But you've got some interesting products that are raw, including something that are, and I got air quotes here for people because they can't see, that are sort of cooked, aren't they? I mean, they're not really cooked, but they are, and brownies that aren't cooked,
Yes,
but they're
we have
brownies.
raw brownies. Maybe that would equate to a thick, dense pound cake.
Okay, well, National Pound Cake Day, who knew? Now, I should just point out, because seeing has made me think that you can also watch what's going on here in the studio at 570 News. If you go to 570news.com and click on the webcast button, and you can sort of zoom in on us on your computer and see what's happening in the studio, and you'll be able to see some of the products that we're actually going to be talking about from Sasha Campbell and Blissful Health. So it's National Pound Cake Day. I don't really know what that means, and it's always been curious to me, how these days get organized. Is it the National Pound Cake Lobbying Association that goes to the Legislative House and says we want to have a national Pound Cake Day? Would you please support it? I don't know. But in 1634, Samuel Cole supposedly opened the very first tavern in the United States in Boston. 1634. That's going back quite a ways. Yeah, I think the country was, very, very young, obviously, and it's kind of cool to know that taverns have been around. I found a really cool word once about taverns. If someone refers to you as a circumhellion, it means you're a tavern haunter, someone who hangs out. I think, something.
Wow.
I think I'll have to double check that. I'll get on the internet and check that. Now, let's see. In 1792, this I find interesting too. Oranges were supposedly introduced to Hawaii. Oranges were introduced to Hawaii in 1792. So I guess from travels elsewhere, who was it? Cook or someone ended up in Hawaii. And these things, they just come out of nowhere. I have no idea how they come up with. And of course, in 1994, and this is only very marginally connected to food, but John Candy died. Of course, the name Candy, a little bit food-like. The Canadian comedian and actor, member of the Second City Comedy Troupe. He died in 1994. A sad passing, and a sad thing, no doubt. Now here's a bit of a trivia question, Craig. We're going to run a little bit of a trivia question. Maybe we'll take some callers. And now that I think of it, I think I'm wrong on that circumhellion thing. I think that's someone who licks plates. I'm not sure.
Maybe someone else can tell us.
An obsessive plate licker is called a circumhellion. I'm not sure. We should get these facts straight before we go on the air. But here's something I do know: that a product that came into being in 1902 during the Christmas season of 1902. It had a very important packaging factor to it in that a string was attached to this product so that it could be hung as a Christmas tree ornament. In total, there have been 37 different varieties, and currently on this line, there's 22. Then more than 40 million packages of these are sold each year. They're exported to 17 countries, and they're turned out at a rate of 12,000 per minute. That's nearly 6,000 miles of string used to package these items. And the poet-philosopher Christopher Morley wrote a poem named for them. What are they? Can anybody tell me what they are? We're going to give people a little time to think about it. They're as old as 1902. They come in different varieties, species, shall we say, and there's more than 40 million of them been sold each and every year. There's a little hint there. And the poet Christopher Morley wrote a poem about them. It's a phrase, I think, that people use every day. It's been a movie, and it's a good thing to eat, and the kids love them. So let's see if we can get a caller in to tell us what those are. So, Nico, tell us a little bit about your food background. You have a fabulous name, if I can say, Nico Giorgio.
Thank you.
Obviously it's got a little bit of an Italian flair to it.
Yes,
So tell us a
absolutely.
little bit about your food background. What sort of, first of all, to win the United Way Dream Auction, you could have chosen to be a radio host. You could have chosen to be a, what else was there? Oh, ranger for a day, police chief. But you
Right.
chose to be a restaurant reviewer. So obviously food plays a bigger role maybe than normal in your
Absolutely.
life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, my wife won the auction for me. She's looking for a unique gift for Christmas. And through me knowing her, growing up Italian, my basic diet included pasta, and more pasta. And 90% of it was pasta. Until I met her, she introduced me to all kinds of food now, all kinds of variety. We're foodies. We're always looking for that next food high. So when she was looking for a neat gift, something unique that you couldn't buy, she went to the United Way auction, found it, and growing up around the family dinner table, food was always important to us. It was the center of any gathering, right? So,
Right. Yeah, and I think the United Way auction, it's a great way to sort of get people thinking about their community, contributing to it, being aware of what's going on, and then creating all kinds of neat links with obviously with the money that's raised from it. So it's a very worthwhile organization. Now, is your family Southern Italian or Northern
They're
Italian?
Southern Italian
in the middle?
from
So
Calabria.
Calabria. Okay.
Yeah.
And the special foods there
Special foods there are my parents love figs and prickly pears. And,
Oh, really? Prickly pear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just amazing, and my kids are lucky to grow up with that. My parents source them out whenever they can and bring them in. And
Yeah, you can find them on odd occasions at some of the sort of
Yes.
larger specialty shops and things like that. Well, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought of them as an old world food for some reason. I sort of figs obviously, but
yeah, they grow on giant cactuses. When we were back there, they're just because it's so dry and hot.
All right. How do they cook them? Are they sort of
eat them raw.
down? Oh, you eat them
You just eat
raw.
them raw.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because they kind of have a watermelon texture with a lot of
so
seeds.
it's more
and
like a
stuff.
fruit.
It's a fruit.
Thing. Yeah, not like that. I was thinking, I guess, of the paddles of the cactus.
Right.
Nopales or whatever they're called in Mexican cuisine, and you would cut those and chop them up.
Right.
And
Yeah. No, it's the
stew
fruit.
them.
It's like a
fruit,
bulb kind of that they cut open.
I don't think I've ever had a.
They're
I never had a
delicious.
prickly pear.
Yeah.
Do you know what they call them in Italian?
Um,
Oh, I'm putting you on the spot.
I
I'm
do.
sorry.
I just can't
Okay,
think
when
of
it comes to
it.
okay. Well, let's we'll throw that out to the callers as well. 519-570-2545 or star 570 on your cell. That's 570-2545 star 570 on your cell. If you can tell us what poet wrote about the particular food that I was discussing before, 40 million packages made, and kids love them, and also what prickly pear is in Italian. I want to say. I don't know. I have no idea.
I think in the dialect it's hicandiani.
Hicandiani.
Yeah, hika being
figs.
figs.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then diani.
Well, there you go. Okay, let's see if someone else knows. Maybe we can get to the bottom of some of these questions. I'm speaking with Nico Giorgio of KidsLink, and also the winner of the United Way Dream Auction, and he selected Nick and Nat's Uptown 21 to be the restaurant reviewer for a day here at the food show, and as well Sasha Campbell from Blissful Health, a raw food expert and coach. And you can find out more about these great organizations. Go to kidslinkcares.com and also blissfulhealth.com. We're going to come back. We have to take a bit of a break now, Craig, please. And if you could get us out of here, I'll say that we'll come right back and we'll talk more with our two great guests today. I'm Andrew Coppolino. This is the Food Show. It's time for a short break. When we return, we are in fact going raw. This is 570 News.
This is
And here we are once again. This is the second segment of the Food Show. Welcome back. Good to have you alongside. And with me alongside in the studio again, Nico Giorgio of KidsLink and the United Way Dream Auction winner for Restaurant Reviewer, and talking about Nick and Nats. And of course, now we'll speak with our next guest, Sasha Campbell. Now, you may have heard the term raw food as it relates to making sure your food is taken from its raw state and prepared and cooked enough to be eaten. However, raw foodists believe that cooked food has lost much of its healthy quality. And to tell us a little bit more about what all of that means, we have with us, of course, Sasha Campbell of Blissful Health. Hi again.
Hi, thank you.
So, what is raw food? It's not the necessarily just the ingredient. It is actual the product, isn't it?
Yes, raw food is actually products that have not been heated above 105 to 115 degrees. They are in their natural state from the environment, from the earth. So a lot of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, fermented foods are included in that as well. And there's really minimal processing, if any, done to those foods.
And now, raw food is this. I wouldn't think is a new thing. I mean, obviously, you could probably find a period of history in the Mesozoic era or whenever mankind first came along. Obviously, it wasn't Mesozoic, but I'm just throwing words out. In our ancient past, before fire, we ate raw, didn't we? I mean, there was no other way to cook food, really.
Yes, we ate raw, and you can go back into history and see a lot of different groups eating raw food and the benefits of having raw food as opposed to a cooked food diet. Right now, we have a lot of cooked food with a lot of preservatives and chemicals in them, which is quite different than the way that we used to eat.
Yeah. So how do you define raw food? Yeah, it's there is some cooking that takes place, but there are certain limits, I guess, on how hot you can cook the food. What is that temperature, and why have they decided on that limit or that level?
Well, raw food, it can be heated with a dehydrator, which is kind of the size of a large microwave. It can be heated to 105, 115 degrees. And what happens is that removes the water from the food, but it doesn't destroy any of the vitamins, minerals, nutrients, enzymes that are in that food. So you can use the dehydrator to make things like crackers and breads and things that are a bit crunchy like cookies as well. But you can also eat just fresh food that doesn't have to be dehydrated. That can be salads, puddings, different desserts as well.
And these are essentially a vegan diet as well, then?
Yes, it's a vegan diet. You have a whole range of people who are raw foodists. So you can have people who do raw honey, so they wouldn't be considered vegan necessarily because they're using that raw honey. But definitely they would call themselves vegetarian then if they were using raw honey.
Now, one of the terms that comes up quite regularly well, it's not a term, I guess, a word that comes up, in a noun, I guess, that comes up in this kind of raw food approach is enzymes. What are they, and why are they so important?
Well, enzymes are in our body, and they're really used for so many functions. And part of the reason why raw food is so popular is because raw food is full of enzymes. So when we digest food, our body has to use its own enzymes to break down the food. In raw food, it's full of those enzymes, that living force. So the food can be broken down, and you can also use the enzymes that are in that food. So that's why raw food is really popular. It is for its taste, but it also is for its health benefits.
I get the impression when I think of raw food, I think of sort of a 60s kind of, maybe the pejorative term is a granola eater or a tree hugger or whatever, but it's a hippie. Yeah, there's this sort of that. I always think, remember that guy Ewell Gibbons? Do you remember Ewell Gibbons? Oh, I guess it's before your time. There's this naturalist. Well, look him up, Google him, and you'll find this Ewell Gibbons. It's Euell, I believe it was, and he was a guy that used to go out in the bush and eat berries and nuts, just like primitive cavemen kind of styles. So there is a sort of I guess there is sort of an impression that this is from a particular era of back to the earth, of trying to find things more natural, trying to find things more holistic and sort of in their real original state. But now we're at a point where there can be all kinds of science and stuff to how we prepare food and how we look at food. What is the science behind this? Is there a definitive study? Is there a group of doctors? Is it scientists, or is it just people that are sort of in a spiritually awakened state that really have embraced this? Where did the foundation of this come from?
Well, I think there's both. There's doctors, and then there's sort of raw food gurus, so to speak, who have done a lot of research. David Wolfe being one of the leading raw food gurus. And actually, he's one of the reasons why I pursued my education in raw food. And he does a huge amount of research out there on how these foods can benefit our bodies. Yes, it is a lot of you mentioned sort of hippie or tree hugging, caveman type, going and foraging your own food, but it's also using superfoods and using foods that we have to provide the best nutrients out there right now. And so it doesn't have to be that group. It's actually, women, men, entrepreneurs, busy working people that feel tired and want to have more energy and want to eat something that's going to give them that impact.
Okay, I'm speaking with Sasha Campbell. She's from Blissful Health. She's a raw food expert and coach, I guess. Her website, Blissful Health, BLYSSFUL health.com. What are some benefits of raw food? I mean, what can we see? If I were to start a raw diet and introduce that into my daily life regimen, what kind of things could I look forward to? After I got over my craving for meat.
The cravings go. The cravings for cooked food do go.
Okay.
And you don't have to be 100% raw. I can just say that. Right. Some people might be, worried, oh my gosh. But you don't have to do that. But
I think that's the attractive thing. When I was reading through some of the literature, I thought, I already do some of it. But tell me what some of the benefits are that I might see. Like, will I suddenly grow 2 feet taller and I'll be, a much more robust and vital person?
Vital, yes, you said vital. I like that word, vital, yes. So you'll be more vital, definitely a lot more energy. That should be one of the huge things. A lot of people use raw food for weight loss. You're not having a lot of breads and pastas and oils and butters, so there is some natural weight loss there. Also, clearer skin, A lot of mental clarity and spirituality can come with raw food as well. It's almost like you clean out all the toxins and the negative foods from your diet, then you start to look in other areas of your life as well. So that kind of can happen for some people that are doing a high raw food diet. A lot of reversal or diminishing health issues as well happens. There's many different centers all over the world that deal with cancer, diabetes, and they focus on a raw food diet. A lot of juicing is really popular. So a lot of people will turn to raw food when they've become, unfortunately, really sick and they want something to reverse that illness.
I see. Okay. So I couldn't have raw meat. I couldn't have sushi.
Well, not on the typical raw food diet. You wouldn't do
so
you wouldn't do raw sushi. That's actually one of the most popular questions in raw meat. And you wouldn't have raw milk. Raw milk is actually something that's really controversial that's coming up.
Yes.
Raw food diet typically doesn't include raw milk, but there is a different movement out there that is raw milk versus pasteurized milk.
Now, you've got some great-looking products over on our sort of the food show groaning board here inside the studio, where we often bulk up with some food products, and people can take a look on the internet. Describe what you've got, how you've made them, because one's a brownie, which I thought needed to be cooked. But what have you got there for us?
Well, we've got kale chips, which are quite popular, and they're made with kale. So a wonderful leafy green, and they're coated with cashews and red pepper and a little bit of seasoning, and those are actually dehydrated.
So those are things that you chop them up, I guess, and they go.
You blend them in the food processor, and then you massage them into the kale. Okay. And when you massage any of the ingredients into the kale, it almost breaks it down. Right. So it's not as tough. It makes it a little bit softer to eat.
Oh, there's a cooking tip for you, Nico. Massage your kale.
Yes, a little bit of salt on the vegetables and massage them, and yes, it does a huge.
And they have a nice crispiness.
Yes, they're crispy and they're very addictive, I bet. And a lot of people love them, and that can replace your regular chips.
Okay, but tell us about the brownies, because those are the ones I'm really interested in.
Yes, raw desserts are actually an interesting way to get people involved in raw food. Raw brownies, these ones have walnuts, raw cacao nibs, and agave. And you can make them in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you just put them all in your food processor, blend it, pat it down into a dish, and then you have raw brownies.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Like I said before, I can go back now and add up what I eat in a day, and I can see that I've touched down in a couple of spots where I'm actually eating raw kinds of food, so that's a good thing, isn't it?
That's great.
And you can just sort of measure yourself and maybe introduce more things along the way. So it sounds like a very sensible way to think about what we're putting in our bodies. But maybe we could help people along. You've got some tips for getting raw food into your diet. Can you share some of those with us?
Yes, I think one of the best ways is actually doing a raw juice or a raw smoothie in the morning. Green smoothies are extremely popular at this moment. You can see a lot of superstars carrying their green smoothies. You can make that in about 5 minutes in the morning, and you can drink that, and that's a great way to get raw foods into your diet. Put in fruit, also put in greens, lettuce, kale, cucumber, whatever you like, avocado, and blend that all up and drink that, and that's actually really filling and filled with nutrients and vitamins.
That's very tasty. Anything else?
Definitely raw soups is another way to go. Just last weekend we had a class at Thrive. We made an avocado soup with lime with a little bit of cashew cream on top, which is just delicious. That's a really great way to get.
So no cooking of the ingredients.
No cooking.
Blend them together, I guess.
Yes.
Chilled and then served with some kind of a garnish.
You can blend. You can blend it, and if you want it slightly warm, just blend it a little bit longer and eat it right away. That way it's not necessarily cold.
So it's not like necessarily a cold soup, just room temperature, but it can't be cooked.
Yes,
all right.
Room temperature. You can also do a lot of the health food stores in the city carry a lot of dehydrated products.
Oh, of course.
So raw crackers, raw cookies. Some of our samples today came from Fiddleheads and also Healthy Food and More. You can grab some of those to keep them in your bag when you're at work if you want to include some raw foods into your diet.
Now, if you wanted to cut the bread out, because that's not raw, because it's been cooked and the grains in it have been denatured, as they say, you could take like a cup that's like shaped lettuce leaf or something, pack your other raw ingredients in there, and that comes like a little lettuce taco almost.
Yes, exactly.
With no bread. What about salads? Can you make more interesting salads? Salads can be sometimes very good, but they can also be kind of the same old thing. Here's some carrot, here's some tomato, here's some iceberg lettuce. What else can we do to make salads that are raw better?
Well, I think I like the term loading your food, so making it as nutritious as possible. So loading your smoothies, loading your salads. So on your salad, instead of just, lettuce and tomato, you can put broccoli, pumpkin seeds. You can have a dressing made out of avocado. You can also put sprouts. Sprouts are amazing for your health. They're a living food. They have so many nutrients. You can throw sprouts in there. Mm-hmm. You can be really creative.
And you can get so many different kinds of sprouts now. It's not just alfalfa sprouts. There's bean sprouts. You can find beet sprouts. You can find all kinds of great things that have great flavor, texture, color, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Now, what about educational programs? Tell us a little bit about, if people are really, really interested in this, they can go to, you have sort of meetups and you've got lectures and other information sessions. Tell us a little bit about what they are, what's going on in this region when it comes to raw food, and how people can connect with you and the other raw foodists in the neighborhood here.
Well, I think Kitchener-Waterloo right now is really interested in raw food and vegan food. So about a year ago, I started a raw food meetup, and it was just an idea I had to create a social gathering to meet with other people who are like-minded, wanted to eat for health and energy, and go out to different places and socialize. So that's a free meetup you can join. Anyone can join, and it just shares information on what's happening in the city. As well, I do cooking classes at various different locations in the city as well, and that's more of a hands-on approach, teaching you exactly what you can make with raw food. So you mentioned salads. We do a raw pate. We do a raw burrito with a collard wrap. So it's really taking a group of people and walking them through all of those ingredients, all of those steps, so they can go home and be able to do that in their kitchen themselves, which is the key. Because you can't keep buying products all the time. You need to be making things at home as well. And also, I'll be at Fiddleheads next weekend talking about raw breakfast. So there's a lot of interesting events happening. They can contact me through the Kitchener-Waterloo Raw Food Meetup or through my website. And I'm really interested, like everyone who contacts me, where do I get these brownies, or how do I, where's the raw sugar that I can use? I email them back and help them out, because it is a learning process.
Yeah, good. And that's what you do. You're a teacher, so that's great. Thanks for joining us, Sasha. Very interesting, and I think people will probably explore a little bit more raw food. Thanks for being here and giving us some insight. That's Sasha Campbell of Blissful Health. She's a raw food coach and expert, and you can find out much more information about this interesting pathway to healthier eating by visiting blissfulhealth.com. That's BLYSSFUL, blissfulhealth.com. There we go. Stay tuned. We have to take a break, but when we come back, we'll chat with United Way Dream Auction winner Nico Giorgio. I'm Andrew Coppolino. You are listening to 570 News.
It's that time of year again when the weather.
We all have to eat. You might as well find out where the best food is. From restaurant reviews to the fun of food from around the region to around the world. This is The Food Show with Andrew Coppolino on 570 News.
And welcome back once again to The Food Show. We're starting up the second half hour of the show here. And it's time to get our guest on the show, Nico Giorgio. A little while back, Nico, who's with the KidsLink organization, was one of the winners of the United Way Dream Auction that raised money for the United Way KW. Up for grabs was a chance to be a chef for the day. It was a chance to be a radio host, a chance to be the police chief, or a ranger for the day. Now, Nico won the opportunity to be a restaurant reviewer, and the restaurant he picked, of course, is the very popular, one of the most popular restaurants, I think, in Waterloo Region, Nick and Nat's Uptown 21 Food and Drink. And we're going to go through a review, and we're going to say hello to Nico, and I guess just give us a little bit of an overview of your impression of the Waterloo Region restaurant scene. What are some of the things you've been looking for in restaurants? What are some of the things that you found are really great about the region?
I think the great thing about the region is as we're growing, the diversity of restaurants is really changing and really growing. There's a lot more ethnic food available, a lot more interesting foods available. It's not just your cookie-cutter restaurants anymore. People are diversifying, and I think with a lot more people in the region getting interested in food, there's more opportunity for restaurants to specialize because there's enough of an audience that
carve out their own individual niches.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't. Every restaurant doesn't have to be completely generic, so they cater to everybody anymore.
And we've even got raw food restaurants like Thrive Juice Bar and things. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to you because you're
Sure.
the reviewer here. I get to do that enough in my day-to-day job. I'm going to let someone else do it for a while, and I'm going to chime in when I can. But we've got a basic format here, so why don't you take us through the process and tell us a little bit about the atmosphere, everything that you encountered at this restaurant. First thing I'll ask you is, have you been there before?
I've never been to Nick and Nat's before. This was my first visit. It's one of those restaurants I've always wanted to try. Just the opportunity never came up for us to try it. So I thought this would be a great opportunity, and obviously going with a seasoned expert, I knew it would be a great time to go. So obviously when we first got there, the front door was a little difficult to find. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but we found it. We got in there. The people, as soon as you walked in, were very welcoming, very warm.
Now, I guess we should point out that they don't know we were coming. This was
Correct,
a complete
yes.
surprise, a sort of secret shopper kind of thing. Yeah, I agree with you about that. That's one of the things that I look for in a restaurant, and that is that, are you met at the door? Do they handle that whole meeting and greeting and getting you seated properly right away? And they did. I agree with you. Yep.
Yeah, and even something just as simple as they took our coats. So you're not struggling with your coat at your chair,
Absolutely.
Trying to hang it on the chair or whatever. That was fantastic. I found they seated us quickly. We weren't waiting around the front for a long time or anything. You were obviously there already. So we sat down, but I thought the entrance that was great.
Good.
It's a nice, it's a very warm restaurant. They have like all kinds of preserves that they make right there on the walls and that, so the food that you're getting is made right there. It's not stuff out of a can that they're serving you.
Yeah.
It's very homemade. It has that feel to it.
Although it's cooked, it is real food.
Yes, exactly. Open kitchen, which is always great to see them actually working away at the food and see the whole process, which is wonderful to see.
How would you describe the menu? It's kind of a different kind of menu because there's a couple of different ways of approaching what you would order.
Exactly. The menu was great. Like their regular menu, there was a lot of. They had like the Captain Picard's. It was the foie gras, I believe it was.
Yep, foie gras bite. Yep.
Yeah, which is he's just when I first saw that on their menu, I thought that's fantastic because Chef Picard he does some incredible, very interesting foods
From Montreal.
And I've never been to his restaurant. I've seen his show a million times, and just
the Wild Chef.
The Wild Chef, yes, the creativity that he displays is incredible.
Now the passion he has for the food and the care that he has for the food.
And the care,
as well.
yes, and just the stuff they're able to create out in the wild when they're cooking. So to see one of his items listed or a tribute to one of his items on a menu, you kind of get a feel for what you could expect at the restaurant. So the regular menu looked great. We ate off the prefix menu.
Right.
And I guess you're saying that they did an offal menu just a couple days earlier.
Right.
So their menu turned out to be a lot more interesting than I would normally participate in.
For example?
For example, I started with the lamb brain ravioli, which normally I wouldn't. But what I've learned is that good food prepared by a great chef is always incredibly tasty. And I have to say that I really, really enjoyed the lamb brain ravioli.
Me too.
The filling is just so creamy, and the texture is just something I've never experienced before.
So rich, yeah.
It's so rich, and the pasta was perfect around it. And of course, serving it in brown butter, you can't really go wrong.
No, you can't go
wrong with that.
Unless you're Sasha, of course.
Yes.
It's a little too far cooked.
But I mean, it was just an incredible way to start the meal. The second course, I had my choice of soup, which I'm not a huge fan of soups in general, or a salad, which again I'm not a huge fan of. But I went with a salad, pickled pumpkin salad with frisee. There was apple, sage, aged goat cheese, and candied walnuts, and it was actually a very, very beautiful salad, and just lots of textures and flavors, and I found like every single bite was just a real treasure. The third course, we had the seared triple P Tamworth pork loin.
Perth pork products.
And with a cheek meat ragu over bone marrow dumplings.
Again, leftover from the Jennifer McClagan offal dinner. But not leftover, I shouldn't say that, but it was part of what they were doing at that time in the restaurant.
And again, I honestly, thinking back to the meal, I don't remember the pork loin itself, although I remember it was fantastic. I ate every little bit of it, so I know it was wonderful. I remember the ragu, the cheek ragu. It was such a wonderful, soft texture.
Yeah. And yet it had a real meaty flavor to it.
Very
it
meaty
wasn't,
flavor.
It wasn't a tough texture at all.
Yes, and the marrow dumplings were fantastic. Batter and fry anything.
Now, is that something that you're familiar with from your background? I mean, I would have thought that, an Italian household, maybe back in the old country, certainly would have been cooking much like this, perhaps.
Yes,
More so
my
than
parents eat.
you're in my generation.
Yes,
here
absolutely. My parents eat they used to have they do a pig around Christmas time. They would do sausages and everything, and they would cook every piece of it. Ears, skin,
so this
feet.
certainly wasn't a foreign meal to you from your background.
Exactly. And so all that was wonderful.
And I guess that's one of the real advantages of what the Uptown 21 crew do is introduce very, very wide variety of different kinds of foods into the dining palette here of the region.
Yes, absolutely. And then to finish off for dessert, I loved anything to do with chocolate. So they had a hot chocolate fudge cake, which had me sold. But the interesting part was it came with pig's blood chocolate ice cream. Again, a little scared to try it, but it was incredibly rich.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And it was rich. It was decadent. And now under the atmospheric lighting that they had there, I couldn't tell that it was pig's blood.
No.
In the ice cream, served, it just looked like ice cream. But it was delicious, and it's just rich, creamy. There's lots of ginger flavors in it.
Okay.
So
you know what we're going to do, Nico? We're going to take a break. We're going to do our little commercial break now. When we come back, we'll sum all of this up. But that ice cream, it's so incredibly rich and dark and deep, and you can eat a few teaspoons of it only, and you feel, wow, I've had a lot, and it's really good and satisfying. There's no doubt. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more about Nick and Nat's Uptown 21, United Way Dream Auction winner Nico Giorgio and his review of Uptown 21. You're listening to 570 News.
This is the Food Show with Andrew Coppolino on 570 News.
And there we are. This is the last segment of the show. Now, just quickly, before we get back to Nico and his comments about the Uptown 21 and the United Way, we have a winner of our little contest. Sorry, there's no prize this week. I just discovered this at the last minute. But we have a gentleman on the line. Hello, who's there?
Hi, this is Felix.
Hey, Felix, where are you calling from?
I'm traveling down to Brantford.
Okay. Are you a Kitchener native? Or you live in Waterloo?
Yeah, I'm in Waterloo.
Okay. Now, how did you get the answer to this question? Did you know this, or did you do a quick Google?
I Googled. It's the magic of a BlackBerry.
Okay. Well, tell us what the answer is. It's 40 million packages that are sold each year. They're sort of Christmas ornaments. They make 12,000 a minute, 6,000 miles of string. What are we talking about?
Animal crackers.
Absolutely, you are correct. Yeah, do we have some animal crackers? We got to figure out. Felix. There you go. Felix, I want you to give Craig all of the information about how to contact you, because we're gonna scare up some animal crackers, and we'll give you a little prize for animal crackers.
Right.
Do you still eat animal crackers?
Do I?
Yeah.
If they're around, I sometimes steal them from my nephew, that type of thing.
Hey, Felix, thanks a lot for calling in. I appreciate you taking the time to look that up. Thank you, and congratulations, you're the winner.
All right, thanks.
Animal crackers and cocoa to drink, that is the finest of suppers, I think. When I'm grown up and I can have what I please, I think I shall always insist upon these. That was a little animal cracker poem written by Christopher Morley about animal crackers. There we go. Thanks for doing that, Craig. Appreciate it. Now, Nico, we're going to get back to you. Your sort of final summary, you've charted us all the way through. Would you say you can assign stars to this meal if there was a 5-star food? What would you...
I would have to give it 5 stars.
Pretty close to 5.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I think the great thing was that I wasn't sure what to expect, and then especially ordering a varied menu like this, it went far above and beyond my expectations.
Good.
As far as the restaurant goes, service.
Yeah. What do you think of the service?
Service was fantastic.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
It was warm, it was friendly, very knowledgeable.
It's a small staff of people, and I think they really know the food, they really know the products, they really know how the kitchen prepares stuff, they really know the customers, the wines. So it's a very tight-knit group there that puts together, I thought the service, I could agree, good seating at the beginning, good greeting at the beginning, and I can't remember the server's name, but she sort of knew her stuff.
She was fantastic.
And took us through sort of everything very nicely in a very good way. So that was great. It was great. So, just sum up. One last little sum up.
sum up. It was just, I mean, yeah, if you're looking for a fantastic dining experience, something maybe a little bit unexpected, out of the norm, check it out for sure. And I mean, even we didn't talk about pricing, but price I found to be very reasonable for the quality and care of food that you got.
Yeah, well, I think we can actually touch on that a little bit. I mean, you can get a 3-course prefix meal for $35, or you can get the 3-course prefix 4-course meal for $45. So again, that's reasonable. It's not going to set you back a whole lot. And again, the thing that we're stressing here is the quality, this real component of the food that Nick Benninger and his team prepare there. So that's it. Thanks very much, Nico. Great job being a reviewer, and I think you touched on all the notes that I would have picked up on. And so, welcome to the reviewing world, and thank you very much on behalf of the United Way. We're going to catch up with you in just a minute to talk a little bit more about Kidsling, but we need to talk a little bit about a location and administration. Nick and Nat's Uptown 21 Food and Drink is located at 21 King Street North in Waterloo. That's between Herb and DuPont. www.uptown21.ca. Now, assessing food, atmosphere, service, and prices, dining out, restaurant reviews, and tasting notes on the food show are based on anonymous and unannounced visits to the establishments. Restaurants do not pay for any portion of the reviewer's meal. So there you go. Thank you for doing that. Now, Nico, Kidslink has its own little food extravaganza, I guess, coming up, doesn't it?
Yes, we have our, I believe it's the 14th annual Gourmet Trail this year.
And what happens on the Gourmet Trail?
Basically, participants get to go to... They get a champagne reception. This year we're starting at the Revolution nightclub. Then you board a bus and you get to go to 3 restaurants, taste their signature meals, come back for dessert, silent auction, live auction.
Oh, it sounds like fun.
So it's just a wonderful full day of eating and just lovely if you're a food fan.
Money goes back to Kidslink.
Money goes back to Kidslink.
And Kidslink does what?
It supports our respite services that give parents a break from taking care of very high needs children. So
a good organization.
A fantastic organization.
And that's what you're responsible for, marketing communications?
Yes, I'm their marketing communications specialist. Yes.
How long has that Gourmet Trail been going on? It's several years.
I think this is the 14th year.
Yeah, that's a long time.
So, yeah, it's a long time.
It must be a very popular event.
It's a great event, yes.
Well, I want to thank you then for taking the time to tell us about that and about your experiences at Uptown 21. And I also want to ask Sasha Campbell, the kale flakes that are over there are very good. Can I take some of those home?
Yes, you can take all of them. They're for you.
Well, that's just about it for the show for this week. I want to tell you a little bit about next week's show, which is kind of interesting because we're going to be talking about sous vide, which is cooking under a vacuum, and we got to have a sous vide demonstration here. But I got to say thank you to Nico Giorgio of Kidslink, kidslinkcares.com, and raw foodist Sasha Campbell, blissfulhealth.com. Thanks also to our studio personnel here at 570 News, internet producer Greg Bowen, and our studio operator Craig Ainsworth. Thanks for your work, Craig. Animal Crackers, thumbs up for that. Visit 570news.com for an archive of past shows, and you can follow the Food Show at twitter.com, 570 Food Show. You can read my column in the Kitchener Post each and every Friday. Join us again next week. It's 570 News morning anchors Lisa Drew and Glenn Pelche. They'll be here to talk about Holy Guacamole, a new Mexican restaurant. Well, like I said, we'll get some insights into the sous vide cooking process. Remember, eat wisely and eat well. Thank you for joining us here at The Food Show. I'm Andrew Coppolino. You're listening to me and The Food Show only on 570 News. Have a